Welcome back to Broncos Beat. Alexis Perry here, joined by ESPN's Steve Levy, the fans Cecil, Lammey, and Broncos Country Tonight's Benjamin Allbright. Guys, the first segment was all about the past, but now let's go ahead and move along to the current state of the Denver Broncos. I think one of the biggest changes the Broncos made came with the hiring of new offensive coordinator Pat Shermer. We've talked a little bit about it here and there, 2 tight end sets, a bell cow back. Those are some of the staples of a Pat Shermer offense, but what else can Broncos Country expect from a Pat Shermer offense?
Well, I think in terms of personnel, we've talked about the hashtag orange and blur speed infusion that they've gotten. But in terms of the offense overall, Pat Shermer is going to be more experienced than Rich Scangarello. Scangarello actually was pretty good on the script and abysmal off of it. He got hyper-conservative. He really just didn't explore downfield shots. You're going to see more downfield shots out of this offense. One of the other things that Pat Shermer does, he leaves the back end to pass protect. One of the top 4 in terms of overall percentage of the back staying into pass protect. You're not going to see that Royce Freeman out of the backfield 5-yard dump off that you saw Rich Scangarello run about every other play. Pat Shermer loves the screen game, loves it. Broncos haven't really had much of a screen game over the last couple of years, and I expect you're going to see a lot of the tight end screen as well, as Pat Shermer's really delved into that over his last couple of years when he's been coordinating offense. So I'm looking forward to see a little bit more varied offense, something that's a little bit different than what Broncos fans have been used to over the last couple of years, and hopefully it'll be a little more explosive as he goes down the field a little more often.
Yeah, I would say that, you can't score 16 points and win in this current NFL, and especially in the AFC West where the Chiefs are. So if you want to start there, I did do some research. I did look up just one statistic. Broncos had 16 points or less in 9 of the games last year. I mean, you just can't win that way. I'm not sure he could have won that way 10 years ago, and definitely maybe 20 years ago, yes. But in this new NFL, in that division, you need points. You have to have explosives to stay in the game. And I know the Broncos were way at the bottom of explosive plays last season, certainly on third down conversions. That was the whole offense last season. So, you look at the Giants last season. They weren't a very good team, and yet they were among the league leaders in explosive plays. And you keep going back when you're in this division. You have to go to the Chiefs and Andy Reid. And, of course, Shermer comes right out of that. They spent a lot of time together, I know, in Philadelphia, so there's the familiarity as well. He's got the experience. He's worked with a lot of young quarterbacks in the past and effective.
Well, and Steve brings it up, the new NFL. This is all about the pressure on Locke because there are no excuses. This entire offseason, everything's built around this kid. They did everything for him. They got his college tight end and Albert Okuwebunam, and I'm just glad I could pronounce that name. But when I look at Shermer's offense, I also look at creativity, right? He's been very versatile, whether it's dating back to his days with the Rams and Steven Jackson or Trent Richardson and the Browns. And, and Steve mentioned last year, all apologies to Darius Slayton and Golden Tate, but I'll take Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, 10 times out of 10 and twice on Sundays. Literally twice on Sundays, but you have to be creative, and you can't just be the standard regular Pat Shermer offense, especially when you have an athletic quarterback like Drew Lock. And looking back last year, what Daniel Jones have almost 300 yards rushing, top of my head. So you're going to see an offense that does utilize that quarterback's athletic skill set. And I think that's where the pressure's on Shermer to have all these tools, to have all these weapons. Now make the best out of Drew Lock and also make sure to use that athleticism that young quarterback has.
Well, longtime AFC West foe Melvin Gordon will don orange and blue this season. Flash Gordon said that the Chargers' offense didn't really play to his strengths very much, but Pat Shermer's offense does. So do you guys think that means that we're going to see him more in that speedster role on the outside, kind of like we saw when he was playing with Wisconsin back in his college days, rather than inside kind of as a grinder?
Well, I think you're going to see inside zone. You'll see duo. I think that fits him. He's got great vision, great footwork, and great patience, and I think that plays to what Melvin Gordon does best. The Broncos have traditionally been an outside zone team, and I think that favors somebody more with Philip Lindsay's skill set, where you get lost behind that line in the wash, you take one cut, and you try to house it. So, I think it's going to be I think they'll play to the strengths, but I think Melvin Gordon brings 2 things to the table. He brings vision and patience, and then he also brings the ability to pass protect in that backfield, like I was talking about. Pat Shermer likes to leave that back end to pass protect.
Well, and I'll say this about Melvin Gordon specifically. Get some more of those big plays, that home run ability that he showed at Wisconsin. 65% of his carries were outside the tackles in college. There's a better way to use Melvin Gordon. I believe that's where Pat Shermer will come into play here and get that speed utilized again. Get him in space. Get him in one-on-one situations where he can make one defender miss and then take it to the house. That's the Melvin Gordon that I remember when he was with the Badgers. We might see flashes of that this season with the Broncos.
I think this is unique, right? The NFL is a running soap opera, franchise to franchise, week to week. There are very few scenarios where you could have already a star running back, if you will, tailback, and then bring in a star running back, tailback as a free agent where it were to go smoothly. Now, this is not Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. I get that totally. But you could understand if there was some angst and apprehension in either camp, Lindsey or Gordon. And I think this needs to be said. These are two unique personalities and two unique situations in which they really do mesh. I touched on Lindsey, and then I think Melvin Gordon comes in. He did not have a boatload of offers, right? Did not have a lot of great options out there. Stays in the division, a chance to go up against his old team. I think this works very well for the Broncos, and I'm not sure this would have worked in a lot of other places at that position. There's no Le'Veon Bell, for example, in this scenario. And I think the personalities and the history, that plays out very well in this spot, which wouldn't have in every other NFL franchise.
Steve, I saw your preseason prediction for comeback player of the year. It was Bradley Chubb, right?
Yeah. Shocking, right?
Right. Shocker. What do you think a comeback season kind of looks like for Bradley Chubb?
I think it looks much better for him, but maybe more importantly, it looks better for Von Miller too. I think that's, so much of this is when we talked about the offensive players, right? It's the same thing. If the young players are able to do what they can, and then that opens things up for Noah Fant in the middle and Cortland Sutton there. And if Melvin Gordon, has these great touches, they're not going to be ready for Lindsey. And so I think the same thing applies on defense really as well. I think, you have to expect – even Bradley Chubb commented on the predictions of people saying he's come back. And in essence, it was, duh, like no doubt. Like, of course, he's going to be the guy to show up. So, look, there's performance and then there's injuries. And injuries, there's very little you can do about that. So have to give the guy the pass. I think, if everybody stays healthy, and it's a big if, but this is the monster season. And again, that opens everything up. If Bradley can stay healthy, and then therefore there's less attention on Von, that then enhances the secondary's play as well, right? It really is the hip bone is connected to the thigh bone, to the leg bone, that kind of thing. It is really one cohesive unit broken up into three parts on the defense, and that's what the reemergence of a Bradley Chubb can do.
Yeah, I thought, Malik Reed filled in as admirably as he could, although he got lost in the run game quite a bit. Jerry Atwater was a bit of a revelation last year and it would be great in a rotational role, but neither one of those guys even added up as Bradley Chubb. Putting him back on allows Vic Fangio to run his defense philosophically the way he wants to, which is send the least amount of pressure I need to at the quarterback, drop everybody else back in the zone and play for the turnover. And that's been the hallmark of the Vic Fangio defense. And I think they'll be a little more apt to be able to generate turnovers this year because of it.
Well, I hate to be that guy that brings up advanced data every time I open my mouth, and Steve's like, man, this guy's a huge nerd. I got the Batman picture behind me. Of course I'm a huge nerd, but when I look at the data, Von Miller led the league in incompletions caused by his pressure. He also led the league in interceptions caused by his pressure. Now add Bradley Chubb back in the mix. Add a guy who I think could do something Von Miller's never done, and that's get 20 sacks. We saw Shaq Barrett go nuts last year for Tampa. Okay, Bradley Chubb, now it's your turn. And as Von gets, let's say 10, 12 sacks, it's a very good season for Von Miller. Let's look at the pressure more so than just the sack total. But Bradley Chubb on the other side, 15, 17, 20 sacks would not be surprising based on this defense and to get you those turnovers that we know the Vic Fangio defense can create.